You wanna be in the video? You wanna share some advice? What is your advice to the world? Hey tiny dragons, my name is Melanie. Welcome back after what, a year and a half. I couldn't find my little mic, so I hope you guys can still hear me. I'm outside my backyard. I've been really busy this past year and a half. I've had a bunch of ideas to make videos about, but I don't know, I didn't have the time and I didn't make the time. Today I wanted to talk about something that kind of changed my life. It's about discipline, self-compassion, and honesty. And I even made a diagram, guys, because like I feel like I needed to show a visual of this so that it like comes across better. I'm gonna put it right here. I called it the Triad of alignment or congruent based growth. It's so fancy, right? No, but I mean, I felt like that really encompassed what it is about. So yeah, I'm gonna be talking about that today. First, with discipline. Discipline, I feel like it gets a bad rap because we kind of like hold this belief that to be committed to growth, we have to completely reject comfort and like this harsh mindset, this harsh energy of strict diet, strict workout routine. I mean, whatever it is. But I challenge you to think of discipline in a different way, because discipline, at least to me, it means choosing actions that reflect your goals and your values, even when motivation is low or when distractions are high. It's not about forcing yourself to do the things that you hate, because when you really think about it, if you truly hated working out or if you truly hated eating right, you wouldn't be doing those things. We are just wired to avoid discomfort. So discipline means being aware of this wiring, being aware that we don't like to be uncomfortable, but then still choosing to follow the steps in between of the long-term goal that you have set for yourself. So it's choosing to align with yourself over and over and over again. Self-compassion, it's not the absence of effort, and it's not saying that you deserve a break and giving in to that impulsivity without actually thinking about it. Self-compassion is mindful, is an intentional act of allowing imperfection while still supporting accountability. When you're learning to make true changes in your life and make real growth, you have to have these two present, but you have to have the real meanings of them. Because if you're stuck in the wrong definition of discipline, you are going to burn out so fast and be full of shame. And if you're stuck in the wrong definition of self-compassion, you're not going to actually push yourself enough to make that growth. Key thing here is remembering the real definitions and also knowing the difference, right, between when you're actually pushing yourself way too hard or when you're being way too lenient. That's the hard part, in my opinion, like deciphering where you're at. But to me, this is where honesty comes up. And honesty in this model means that you're actively self-reflecting over and over again. So you're self-aware, but you're also reflecting on that awareness. This will invite clarity into your decision-making and into your thoughts, because honest reflection will ask you, okay, what do I actually need right now? Am I avoiding discomfort, or do I really need the rest? It kind of requires you to observe yourself as objective as possible, and that's the key. Like, try to be as objective as possible so you can actually act from a place of authenticity rather than reaction or avoidance. So for example, say you come home from work, you're so tired from the day, and your plan was to go to the gym after work because at some point you committed to that because you have decided that movement is good for you and you feel good after a workout. But then at that moment, you just feel so tired and mentally overwhelmed and just not in the mood to follow through. And so this is where you kind of need to bring up this, because discipline might say, go, you made a promise to yourself, but then self-compassion might come in and say, you've had a hard day, you need to rest. So without clarity, the night kind of maybe just slips into deciding not to go to the gym, and now you're like doom scrolling on TikTok, whatever. Didn't turn out to be something restful or restorative. It was just avoidance of the discomfort of going to the gym. And you'll start to notice when this happens, you'll feel ashamed, you'll feel disconnected, or you just don't feel good about your decision. So this is where honesty matters, because honest reflection asks, was I truly tending to my needs? Did I really need that rest? Or was I avoiding discomfort? And when that question is answered, if you did go home and just doom scrolled for the rest of the night, you realize that maybe if you were really that tired, you would have gone straight to bed to sleep, or would have done something to rest. But the problem is that it's so easy to get stuck in that self-shame loop once you make that realization. You have to remember that if you're doing it from an objective place, it shouldn't have any negative connotations. It should be treated as an observation and as a guide for the next time something similar happens. Also, compassion should be the first step to move forward if you find yourself stuck in that self-criticism loop, because you have to acknowledge that you're human and that you just made a choice that didn't align perfectly with your goals. So that's all that happened. Important thing to remember is to get back on the flow of these three. And just a quick note about self-criticism: it reduces motivation and it increases disconnection with yourself. So instead of shaming yourself for falling short, just be objective and be real about it. You chose short-term ease over long-term care. That's what happened. And that's fine. I mean, that just means that maybe you need more practice with these three things, and just more time, you know. This is not easy. It's not a one-time done deal type of thing. When you make choices that align with yourself, it's not the last choice you're gonna make. So it's not gonna be the only time you align yourself. It's not gonna be the only time you don't align. After you've forgiven yourself for that, you have to bring in discipline and not use it as a punishment, but as a recommitment. So recommit to yourself and to your real goals. That way it becomes a choice from care and not from force. Discipline is more about asking yourself, how do I realign with my intentions, with my long-term goals, with my higher self? And maybe that means going to the gym tomorrow with fresh energy, or literally just sitting down and reminding yourself what your goals are, what you really want to do, where your higher self is, because it's easy to forget if we're not constantly being reminded, because we have so many distractions around us. But yeah, this is just something I wanted to share, something to keep in mind as you make choices, as you live your life as a human. And this is ongoing. Like, this is dynamic, meaning that it's constantly changing, because we are constantly changing. So our goals can change and we have to reassess things. It's basically just a daily practice of listening, adjusting, and choosing ourselves over and over again. But you won't be able to constantly do this, like choose yourself in a sustainable way, if you don't have these three components. Because say you only have honesty and like reflective self-awareness and discipline, choosing to align, but you don't have the self-compassion, you are going to be stuck in this spot where there's clarity and there's effort, but there's no room for forgiveness when you fall short, because you will, because we all do. This is where it becomes really easy to spiral and burn out. You might still see growth, but it's not sustainable and it's not going to last. If you have self-reflection and self-compassion, but you have no discipline, you're gonna have the insight, but you're not gonna make any actions towards alignment. And you can stay stagnant, or you can just be in cycles of constant reflection, but without any meaningful action to change. And then if you only have discipline and self-compassion, you're kind of in this weird spot where you do have a routine, but there's no reflection behind it. So there's no accurate insight on how to grow, or if you should grow, or if anything should change. You're just kind of stuck on autopilot in a way. And you do forgive yourself when mishaps happen, but you don't reflect on that. You don't reflect on why it happened, or if you maybe are doing something that no longer serves you. You kind of need all of these 3 things for authentic growth. And congruency means that your inner world aligns with your external behaviors. So if you're feeling like something's wrong in your life, I encourage you to sit with yourself and think about what you want your life to look like, and then try to find a disconnect between what you feel inside and then what you're doing on the outside. Because chances are that there's not congruency there, and that there's a disconnect between your inner self, like your higher self, and what you're actually putting out in the world. But yeah, I mean, I try to put it into words. I don't know. I hope this made sense to somebody. But yeah, that's kind of how I've learned to keep growing without hating myself for when I make human mistakes. I don't even like to call them mistakes, because we're just human. Life is supposed to be this way. It's supposed to be a trial and error and continuing growth and being curious about ourselves and our actions and our thoughts. I hope this helped. I hope next time you have a choice to make, you think about these 3 things and you make the choice that most aligns with yourself, your higher self. All right, bye, tiny dragons. Thank you.